think it is important to look back on things. Tonight's show is going to be mostly about Barack Obama. And I know that can give some people, the old, oh gosh, not this again, he's already gone. Yes, that's true, and I would agree with you, except look at the polls. Look at where we currently sit in the country. Now, we're going to work hard to make sure that doesn't happen. Lord willing, it won't happen. But look at the polls. Joe Biden is up in all of them. Every single one. There's not one showing Donald Trump ahead. Joe Biden is up on the most recent polls in Texas. Now, I'm never going to believe that Texas is turning blue until it actually turns blue. But that's still where we are. I mean, that's where we are. So maybe to try to shock our system a little bit, scare us back into sanity, it's important to remember what a Joe Biden presidency would mean. Because Joe Biden, back in Obama's days, wasn't any kind of a rock star. Joe Biden now, what's he going to do? Who's he going to put around him? You know. You already know. It's going to be all the people he knows. All the people from Barack Obama's administration. And let's not forget, granted, you couldn't do anything to get any media coverage of this during the Obama administration, but let's not forget the absolute radical, the flat-out Marxist academia liberals Barack Obama packed his administration, packed our government as a whole with. And to his credit, as an opponent, as somebody who believes the opposite of everything I believe, I give the man credit for it. Barack Obama understood very well. One of, if not the most important thing he could do during his presidency wouldn't actually be accomplished during his presidency. It would be for the future. What he committed himself to doing was packing the federal bureaucracy with hardcore leftists. And he did. And let me ask you, what have you seen Donald Trump go through during the first 3 years? Been a living nightmare, right? Collusion, hoaxes, a sham impeachment, all this stuff. Where did all those things come from? Where did they all originate? That was the most maddening thing. They all originated within the government. Barack Obama knew, I can pack the bureaucracy, and I can, if I can't further the next guy who agrees with me, I can handcuff the next guy if he doesn't. Now, that's where we are. Where are we going with Biden if he gets there? 4, 8 more years of that? 4, 8 more years of, remember Barack Obama had somebody high up in his administration who was caught on tape praising Mao Zedong, that guy, the guy who murdered, we think, 50 million Chinese people of his own people. That's real. That's as radical as it's getting. And we have to remember this, Barack Obama's still there. Why is he still there? Because he loves the spotlight. Why do you think he's always popping his face up with a quote somewhere? Why do you think, remember, we used to make fun of him all the time? Every time somebody died, Barack Obama would put a picture up on social media of himself with the person who just died. That's who he is. You think Joe Biden isn't going to be making that phone call when Barack Obama's there? You bet he is. You bet he is. Donald Trump had this to say about him.
And look, I think he was an incompetent president. I think President Obama was one of the worst presidents in the history of our country. I think he was an incompetent president. I know what he left. We had a country that was a mess. We were paying high taxes. We were paying, and outside of this artificial event that took place 2 months ago, and I'm going to build the country into stronger and better than it was even then. And it's already happening, and you can see it. You can see it today. Just take a look at the stock market. Look at what's going on. Look at the great numbers that are being called, and look at these medical companies calling in. And we're talking about more than one. So many things are happening. But I think President Obama was an incompetent president. He did a terrible job. And by the way, there was great division in our country with President Obama. You didn't see it as much, but there was tremendous division in our country.
There was. People forget how divided the nation was. And he's totally right about that incompetent thing. Remember that. It's not just that leftists can't get out of their own box of of this insane collectivist thinking where rich people and businesses are the bad guy. We need to give all the money back to the people kind of crap. Well, it's not just that. Barack Obama, he never did anything. I mean, in the private sector, anything. The guy never had a real job. Here's the thing. Joe Biden's been in Washington for like 300 years. What does Joe Biden know about business? It's going to be the same thing. And Trump was right also about how everything took off when he took office, about how it took off like a rocket. Do you think that was an accident? All of a sudden, the stock market rockets up like this? It wasn't an accident. Let me refresh your memory in case you forgot. And again, remember, I'm refreshing your memory because it might be coming again. Businesses, they watch the news too. They hear what people are saying too. Businesses look around and they hear the President of the United States talk about how evil they are, how much their wealth needs to be seized and spread around. Businesses don't invest. Businesses do not expand. Businesses do not look at that new location across town. Should we buy that? We can try to expand. It's a risk. No. You look at that property across town and you're like, I'm not giving all that to Obama. I'm not giving all that to Joe Biden. And they hold back. And that's why under the Barack Obama presidency, there were trillions of dollars in liquidity. It was very odd. People couldn't figure it out. I figured it out. You know why businesses had so much liquidity? Because they had the cash and refused to spend it underneath a man who was going to take it from them. That same thing's going to happen to Joe Biden. Now, remember, we have 50 million people unemployed right now. What happens to the job market if the stock market nosedives? What happens to the job market if potential employers, if they hold their money back, if they sell off their assets, if they cash in their chips, which many did under Obama, which hurt him as well? I'm done. I know several personally. That's going to be a very big deal. And let's not forget, I'm sure you may have forgotten since it didn't get any coverage at all, let's not forget that there was a horrendous swine flu epidemic under Obama.
H1N1, the swine flu. The Obama administration was a disaster. And they did polling on how did they do. And their polls were so negative, so bad. They did a very poor job. And they did a poor job on a lot of things. They did a poor job on our military. They did a poor job on our ammunition. When I got here, we had no ammunition. Just like we had no ammunition, we had very little medical, too.
Yep. It was really bad. But what a difference it is when you're a Democrat versus a Republican. You never even remembered how bad the swine flu was. I don't blame you. And Obama, the guts on this freaking guy, had the guts to come out and blast Trump about the COVID response.
Doing what feels good, what's convenient, what's easy, that's how little kids think. Unfortunately, a lot of so-called grown-ups, including some with fancy titles and important jobs, still think that way, which is why things are so screwed up.
I can't stand him. I got to tell you, I can't stand him. It just used to drive me crazy. And look, Barack Obama believed in government control of an economy. He did. He regulated it to death. That's why he was constantly choking the life out of it. Trump, to his credit, maybe the best thing he's done in his presidency, he stopped all that.
We're here today to celebrate and expand our historic campaign to rescue American workers from job-killing regulations. Before I came into office, American workers were smothered by merciless avalanche of wasteful and expensive and intrusive federal regulation. These oppressive, burdensome mandates were a stealth tax on our people, slashing take-home pay, suppressing innovation, surging the cost of goods, and shipping millions of American jobs overseas. Millions and millions and millions. It never ended. Nearly 4 years ago, we ended this regulatory assault on the American worker, and we launched the most dramatic regulatory relief campaign in American history by far.
He did, and it worked. And let's remember, as ugly as things are right now, as ugly as things are getting right now, the last thing we need is to go back to Obama, and that's exactly what Biden would be. Now, that's the last thing we need. Let's talk for a minute about the last thing you need. The last thing you need right now is to be evicted from your home. And you know that that's happening, right? It's not something I'm making up. Home title theft is sweeping the United States of America because it's so easy for these cyber criminals. You're not walking in a bank with a mask and a gun anymore. These guys, they're all on computers now. They get your home title, you don't know it. They get your signature on it, you don't know it. They get a loan out against it, you don't know it. And you start getting late notices in the mail for a loan you didn't take out, which you disregard as junk mail. Until the day comes when they're evicting you from your home. Again, not something I'm making up. It's happening right now in America. It's sweeping the country. Go to HometitleLock.com and start protecting yourself. Register your address, see if you're already a victim. When you're there, use the code Jesse. Get yourself 30 free days of protection. HometitleLock.com. We'll be back. Joining me now, Pastor Darrell Scott, author of Nothing to Lose, Unlikely Allies in the Struggle for a Better Black America. Pastor, I guess let's get to that right off the bat. What does that mean, a better Black America? What are your problems with the Black America we have? Where do you want it to go?
Well, there are a lot of problems that the Black community experienced under the administrations of prior politicians. A number of those problems that they continue to identify now, even as they did then. And so President Trump and I worked together to try to come up with legislation and policies regarding the Black community. And so far, we've come up with the First Step Act. We've had criminal justice reform, the creation of the opportunity zones. There's been historic funding for HBCUs. And there are some other initiatives that we're currently working on that we just haven't unveiled yet because they're still in the formulation process. And so, you know, when I say unlikely allies, you wouldn't think that a Black guy like me from the hood and a white billionaire like Donald Trump from New York would find themselves collaborating on issues that were germane to the Black community.
Why are you collaborating? What is it about him? What is it about you? I mean, everybody knows there can be animosity there, especially between two different people that are that different. Why are you collaborating?
Well, I've known him. I met him nearly 10 years ago, and I like the guy. You know, this entire racist narrative against him is false. He and I met, and I liked him from the very beginning. He reminds me a lot of myself. I told people then, I said, he reminds me of a white me. And so he and I are very comfortable regarding matters of race. We're not uncomfortable in the least to discuss racial issues very, very frankly. And as a result, he is in a position to help the Black community, but it's really an extension of what he'd done prior to being president. I mean, he's done a lot of things for the Black community that he doesn't get credit for. He's received awards from Rainbow Push. He's done a lot for Al Sharpton's National Action Network in the past. He's done a lot of things that went unnoticed. And, you know, the racial allegations that came out when he became a candidate for president, we know that it's just political fodder, political narrative, but there's no truth to it. So he's continuing now. He asked me, after he won the election in 2016, he called me in November, a couple of days after Thanksgiving, and he asked me what I wanted. Did I want an ambassadorship? Was I looking for an appointment to a position? And I told him I simply wanted to be a liaison between the Black community and the Trump administration and the Trump administration and the Black community. And he said, you got it. And so whenever I come to him with proposals, he doesn't give me any hard time about it.
How could you blow such an opportunity like that? Those ambassadors don't do anything. You should be the ambassador of Greece and be eating olives on a beach or something right now. How could you blow that?
And you know what? I didn't think about Greece because I was stationed in Greece when I was in the service. And I know Greece and I loved it. And I told myself I was never going to come home from Greece when I was there. And I got sent home. And I always told myself I would go back and retire there. You're right. I should have did that. I would have took the Bahamas. Because the Bahamas is close. I would have taken the Bahamas, but it was occupied at the time.
Well, screw him. Tell the president that the current guy's going to have to go. I'm going to the Bahamas. But anyway, do we have a government problem or do we have a faith problem in this country?
Well, we have both. We have a problem with Democratic government. We have a problem with Congress right now because the Democrats are in control. We have a problem in a number of cities throughout America that have Democratic leadership because the Democratic Party has gone so far left that it seems like they went past the point of no return. They're just getting absolutely crazy and unrestricted. They're taking liberalism to an extent, that it was never intended to be. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul says, you've been called to liberty, but use not your liberty as an occasion to the flesh. You can go too far in your liberties. You have to have liberty under restraint. They want liberty without restraint. And so as a result, it's damaging this country and the Democratic Party because this is an election year. They're doing anything they can to try to get votes from anybody that they can. They don't care how they get it, who they get it from. So they're not only tolerating this, these excesses in what they call liberty, they're not only tolerating it, but they're endorsing it as well. They hate this president so much that they will let this country be destroyed if it means getting rid of him.
Pastor, I hate the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's going to make life way worse for people, especially people in the poor black communities in this country. I think that's undeniable now. We already have children getting shot. I don't see how in any way this movement furthers the cause of the black community in the United States of America. But I'm white as this piece of paper and you're black. Am I wrong?
In public, yes. White men can't say anything these days. White men are really at the low bottom of the totem pole when it comes to First Amendment expression. Black people, we can say anything we want to. We can wild out. But let me say this. The Black Lives Matter as a slogan, as a statement, as a principle and precept is good. Black Lives Matter as an organization is bad. Black Lives Matter as an organization does not care about black lives. It cares about race baiting and racial tension in order to serve their own nefarious purposes and to get money. If black lives really mattered, there would be an outcry about all these children that are being killed almost daily. It seems like every week there's a father and a mother on television crying and lamenting over the fact that another black person killed their child and no one seems to care. Black babies are getting killed. I don't hear LeBron James. LeBron James came out and said when Ahmaud Arbery was killed, he said, well, this just shows that every time we go outside, we're being hunted and we're being oppressed and intimidated. Well, why doesn't he say that it seems as if a black youth goes out into his own neighborhood, he's being hunted and he's under the threat of death. And it's sad. And Black Lives Matter is quiet about it. These athletes are quiet about it. These entertainers are quiet about it. It's almost like black on black crime is permissible. Black on white crime is permissible as long as there's no white on black crime. That's unpermissible. And it's ridiculous.
Pastor, I'm glad you brought up LeBron because I'll be honest, it bothers me a great deal. LeBron James bothers me, and he bothers me for this reason. It's not really his political views. People can be left or right. It doesn't bother me at all. It bothers me because he is such an accomplished human being. And I look at the guy and I say to myself, I mean, no matter what you think about his game, the dude's one of the greatest NBA basketball players of all time. Going to be worth $500 million if he's not already. Lives a life of luxury and came from absolute crap. He should be a shining example of what you can do with obviously some gifts, but a heck of a lot of hard work. Instead, it seems he's always pushing some nonsense out there about how much this place is awful when he has achieved the greatest. Shouldn't he be on TV saying, I did it, you can do it too? That's what I'd like to hear.
You're absolutely right. I remember the commercial when Michael Jordan was in his heyday. And the commercial was, I want to be like Mike. And he needs to use his, I think that LeBron could better use his platform to serve the American community rather than simply try to pour gasoline on fires and inflame already tense situations. It seems like he only crawls out from under a rock when he thinks that a police has beat up a black guy or killed somebody black, and he goes out and uses his platform to perpetrate victimization and oppression, but he never uses it as a means to improve society in the sense that even once again with these black babies getting killed, here's LeBron. He has 2 teenage sons and he has a preteen daughter. He needs to say, you know, having children at those ages makes me more compassionate for those who are losing children at those ages. Why don't we stop this violence against children? Why don't we become more responsible? But he's quiet when it comes to those matters. He's quiet when it comes to young black boys and black babies getting shot and killed out in the streets. He doesn't say a word. And that's what I find a little bit disappointing about him, that he doesn't use this platform to try to calm racial tension and try to address solutions. He becomes part of the problem and makes the problem even worse.
Pastor Darrell Scott, I know where I'm going to church when I'm in the area. I appreciate you, sir.
God bless you, man. Thanks for having me.
Be good. That guy's freaking awesome. We're going to have him back some more. Now, it can get a little stressful out there at times. And we're doing these specials all the time now about what's happened, what's happening, what's going to happen. And it can get stressful. I know it can. I know it can. Even for a sociopath like me, it can. You need a good night's sleep. And right now, if you allow this news cycle, the news stress of the day to consume you, it's going to ruin your physical and mental health. It is. Get an ebb sleep so that when you lay down at night, those thoughts calm down, you go to sleep and you stay asleep. 7-8 hours of sleep without the tossing and turning, without the waking up. Oh, I've got this important meeting tomorrow. 7-8 hours every single night. Go to tryebb.com/Jesse. That's tryebb.com/Jesse. Use the promo code Jesse. Get yourself $25 off, all right? We'll be back. Joining me now, the goodness sakes, more and more nationally famous as the days go by, Buck Sexton of the Buck Sexton Show. Buck, I need to know this before we get going here. Every time I turn around now, I see your name and face on something. I mean, everything's just blowing up for you. Private plane. Is it possible I can catch a ride if you're going someplace cool?
Jesse, when I live in an apartment that is larger than your garage, I will definitely take you up on that, okay? When I have more space to live in than you have for your car, then we can have that conversation for sure.
Buck, I'm glad you brought that up because obviously you're a New York City man. It's where you live. It's where you work. I love New York City, as you well know. Everyone knows de Blasio is an insane clown. We don't have to dwell on that. Are we going to see some kind of backlash, do you think, when the next election comes up? I mean, this is textbook how we got Rudy Giuliani. You had some idiot. The streets were full of murder. The public backlash was there. Is that even possible?
No, I don't think it is. Not right now, not anytime soon. I think the public in New York, now you guys are getting hit much worse down in Texas with COVID right now than we are here in New York. New York is pretty much feels like COVID's a non-event in New York City, which is a huge change, obviously, from when, I mean, everyone was terrified to even go outside. The streets are less safe, though, and the criminals are feeling like they have a freer hand they have in a long time. But you have to remember, this is all within, this isn't just like a thing that happened. These are decisions that were made by Democrats, pushed forward by the activists and the Democrat media, which is, you know, as we both know, about 95% of news media. And these are the inevitable consequences of what they've actively said they don't want to give as much money to cops, and they want to put cops on notice that if they do anything that looks bad on a video, even if it's justified under use of force, that they're going to go after them. So New York is not going to change. And with the COVID problem on top of the crime issue here, you have two sets of people, Jesse. Those who are just truly terrified. I mean, I come across these people. There are people, and I'm being serious, who live in my building who will not go outside without a full head-to-toe hazmat suit. I'm telling you the truth. I would take a photo of them, but they're civilians, and I don't want to embarrass them. But there are people who won't go outside with that. People are terrified still. And then on the other side, there are the people that realize, oh, no, if we just keep shutting down, Trump loses. So there are no Democrats who are seeing this and saying this is insane. That's what I'm seeing.
Buck, I want you to walk me through the terror here for a moment, because it's funny you brought that up. I live in one of these little white picket fence Texas suburb neighborhoods. They called in a food truck last night. It's not important, but the neighborhood went out to get some nachos from this nacho food truck. And multiple neighbors of mine, now we're talking middle class picket fence Texas suburb here, 90% Republican, multiple neighbors of mine would stand on the sidewalk by themselves outside wearing, this is the best part, Buck, a cloth mask. Explain that to me, how you're so petrified of the virus that you buy some stylish hanky from Amazon and stand away from everybody while outside. This is all just performative, right? That person doesn't actually believe that's doing anything, right?
It's tough to say. I mean, I agree with you on the absurdity of cloth masks outdoors by yourself, but I'm coming across a lot of truly irrational fear. I mean, the media has terrified so many people over this. And when you try to think through it, I get yelled at now when I even bring up, they say, oh, the CDC says wear masks now. And I say, 6 months ago, the CDC said, not only don't wear masks, if you wear a mask, you're being foolish and reckless because we need those for healthcare providers, not for you. And that's just a matter of public record. We all know that, And then I say, show me the science, show me the studies and the data that disprove the original CDC thesis. And then they get even more angry. And this has become a political symbol for a sick country because of Trump. That's what the mask wearing for a lot of people really is about. I mean, you start to dig down into this. You say, okay, so a mask is supposed to protect me from droplets large enough that a mask would catch it. But let's remember then that means that somebody has to actually be spewing at you while they're talking to you, has to be close enough that it would hit you. If you're worried about aerosolized virus, we know that as a matter of science, the mask does effectively nothing. It does not deal with the 0.1 micron sized virus that you're going to be trying to avoid. But no one even cares anymore, Jesse. I mean, remember, the Democrats are the same people that thought the country and the world should be lectured by a 16-year-old who dropped out of high school about climate change last year. So science is actually not their strong suit.
Buck, and I don't know how we got sidetracked on this. I wasn't going to talk to you about this tonight, but everybody knows I don't plan things out. We're just going that direction now. Dr. Fauci. I've not been a Fauci basher. I've not been a Fauci fan. I thought he got way in love with the fame and just it took it way too far. And I thought Donald Trump should have had other people in the room. Be that as it may. He appears, I think it was yesterday or the day before, on the cover of In Style magazine, wearing khakis, got the button-up shirt sleeves rolled up with sunglasses and a nice headline on it called The Good Doctor. In what universe does anybody who's selling himself as the doctor who's out there killing himself to save lives, in what universe does he think that's a good idea? Was this just all about the fame?
I think it's about a lot of things. Fauci is being hailed as a longtime public servant, public health expert. And as we know, the more the media loves a person who works for the government, remember, he's a government employee, the more the media loves that person, the more useful that person is at that point in time against their political opponents, right? Whether we're talking about Lieutenant Colonel Vindman or you're talking about Comey, you name it. Anybody who works for the government who is useful in an anti-Trump narrative is elevated as some kind of superhero. Look, Fauci, I agree with the basic sentiment of that Navarro op-ed written from Peter Navarro in the White House. It's like, look, this guy's been wrong about everything. So I understand that people want to believe that he has the answers. He doesn't have answers to anything. I mean, I've yet to hear him say a single thing where I didn't already know what he's telling me and think that this is somehow a useful exercise of his time and platform. I mean, is it about the fame? Yeah, it's certainly... it sort of reminds me, remember when Valerie Plame was outed and everybody was like, oh my gosh, and I was at the CIA at the time this whole thing happened, and I can't talk about it other than to say that she wasn't in any danger, folks. Everyone could just calm down. Mm-hmm. But when Valerie Plame was outed and everyone's like, oh no, and then she's posing on the cover of Vanity Fair within like a week. Within a week. I'm sure that all the damage control they were doing about, her outing, Vanity Fair cover. So it's like the same thing, right? I mean, you get people that have their opportunity. They're selfless public servants until Random House calls them and, wants to do a book deal. And then all of a sudden everything changes. So, look, Fauci's a human like everybody else. I like to call him the Fauci. So, this is what I'd say, man. You can't vouch for the Fauci.
Don't, Buck. All right. We've been doing a bit of a look back tonight because we're looking back at Obama, not to rag on Obama, because, look, we have to accept what the polls do say right now. Let's hope they're wrong. We have to accept the fact there is a chance, and possibly a strong chance, we're about to have Joe Biden. Should I believe Joe Biden is going to have anything other than just former Obama people around him? Does he have some kind of a different team? Because it all looks the same to me.
Look, I think that Biden, quite honestly, is just going to do whatever he's told to do when he's told to do it by the people that are going to be in place around him, who are largely the Democrat apparatus. But the big problem that we're seeing is that the apparatus is far left. Even if you bring in former Obama people, they're viewing this as a continuation of, let's be honest, a lot of the progressive forward, a lot of the forward socialist momentum that the Obama administration achieved. Right? Remember, it was, we'll never go for single payer. That's too radical. This isn't just a bridge to that. Actually, it is, right, with healthcare and Obamacare, as we've now seen, as they're advocating for single payer. So even having Obama people back, you don't have to have AOC as the White House chief of staff to have a far left Biden presidency. People that were around Obama will continue the work of the Obama administration to make this a less free, more divided and less prosperous nation. I mean, that's and more socialist. Let's be honest. Now they're open socialists. Before they were kind of quasi-socialists.
Buck Sexton, before they shut it down, I'm sure it's no longer in existence now. What's the best place to eat in New York City?
I mean, I'd probably go to Shake Shack more than anywhere else, to be honest with you.
Oh my God.
Which explains why I threw my back out, Jesse, getting the package that had my workout equipment in it this week. I kid you not. That's where I am. I'm in the package room. I lift it. It's heavy, and my back hurts now. Yeah.
All right, Buck. Go do some sit-ups. We'll talk to you later. Buck Sexton on the Buck Sexton Show. Thank you, bud.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah. Buck, that is a sad situation right there. Gosh, that's funny. You know what Buck needs? Buck needs some Raycon earbuds. You pop in your Raycon earbuds, you turn some tunes on your phone, it Bluetooths to your phone in like half a second, and then you turn on your tunes and you start jamming out. I wear them all the time when I work out, and they stay in your ears so well. I wear them actually when I'm out jogging. I wear them when I'm walking around. I wear them when I'm out jogging. Maybe I do need to get a second pair, and maybe I will, because when you go to buyraycon.com/Jesse, that gets you 15% off the already great price they had. Buyraycon.com/Jesse. These are the most comfortable earbuds I've ever had in my life, and they're only like that big. Buyraycon.com/Jesse. We'll be back. Joining us now from the Independent Women's Forum, also former member of Congress during Obama's administration and medical doctor, Nan Hayworth. Nan, which was worse, the 9,000 years of medical school or your time in Congress?
You know, they both had their distinct joys, Jesse. Honestly, I had a ball through both of them for the most part. I really loved medical school and I really loved being in Congress. And both of them were an opportunity to serve and to try to help heal, one on a very personal scale, and the other on obviously being part of a great national effort.
What part of Congress did you hate? What part of being there did you hate? Because there's some part that grinds at everyone, and I understand you're a sunny person. What part do you hate?
Well, You know what? I'll tell you what troubled me the most. And in the fullness of time, you know, the more I've observed of politics, the more it strikes me. What troubles me the most, Jesse, is that folks on the ground, our citizens, lack an optimal understanding of what the role of government should be in their lives, and more specifically, what the role of the federal and the state and the local government should be. So they are vulnerable, and this happens all the time, to politicians exploiting their own desire to aggrandize themselves or, you know, more charitably be the hero at the expense of taxpayers. And this is a terrible problem that creates all kinds of additional effects and has the unfortunate consequence of, frankly, what we're seeing right now. You know, we have asked government to do far too much, and we have ceded far too much of our power as citizens to government. And that means that government can encroach ever more on our rights that the Constitution was so brilliantly designed to protect. And that is what bothers me the most.
Nan, why, though? Why do people, I mean, you're one of these 9,000 IQ persons. Why do people still trust government? In all seriousness, I'll never understand this of human nature. Yeah. Why still reach out to government? Why still trust government when it always sucks? It just always does. They screw up everything. It makes every problem worse. It kicks the can down the road. It's always terrible, and yet they always go back. Is that just our nature?
Well, I think I look at, you know, I was born to parents who lived through the Depression. Both of them were in military service in World War II. My mother was in the British Army, amazingly enough. My dad was in the Battle of the Bulge. But during those decades, especially in the United States, you know, the Franklin Roosevelt presidency really had a devastating effect, and we see it still today. It is now the Great Society programs magnified it, but you know, the Great Depression made people desperate, and Franklin Roosevelt projected that confidence, that savior-like quality. And they put all of these programs in place, and even Roosevelt would blush at what is being proposed today. But people, definitely Americans, got the distinct cultural impression that we can look to the government when there is nothing else. We can look to the government for solutions. And then, of course, the Great Society programs made that even more a part of our lives and our thinking. And of course, those programs, as Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the great Democratic senator and scholar, predicted in the 1960s, have resulted most directly in the fragmentation of families in these urban communities, in generational poverty and despair. And when we want to look at the root cause of what has convulsed this nation after the terrible death of George Floyd, the root cause is not that we should not deal with history of racism and seek to, you know, to eliminate it wherever it might exist, but that is not the root cause of our problems. The root cause of our problems is decades of policies, primarily promulgated by Democrats, that have left these communities in despair and in destruction and in death. And it is the Democrats have successfully managed in all too many places to deceive and deflect and make it about systemic racism instead of making it about their policies.
Nan, I'm glad you brought that up because you were in Congress under Barack Obama. And we're doing a big, you know, look back on his presidency show tonight, simply because I'm worried about Joe Biden getting elected and getting a part two of all that. What was it like being in Congress under President Barack Obama? Explain it.
Well, President Obama was, as we all know, he famously said elections have consequences. So he was supremely confident in himself. And as we know, he was in so many ways surrounded by enablers and sycophants. He was gifts were attributed to him. And I'll give him this. He's great at reading a speech off a prompter. He's got a terrific deadpan, humorous delivery. I'll give him that. But his policy ideas, which were heavily influenced by people in his administration, obviously, were clearly very, very damaging. And the consequences, of course, we continue to suffer. He had to work with Republican leadership in the House because we were the majority. We did compel, because, of course, there was a Democratic Senate majority, but we did manage to compel these folks to constrain themselves on spending because Barack Obama was willing to reduce military spending, or at least to compromise on it. So I will grant him that. And we saw the reverse of that, actually, Jesse, in the fall of 2017, when President Trump signed that really outrageously large bill that the Senate handed him, and of course the House as well. But the Senate, not having 60 votes for, the Republican point of view, had to accommodate the Senate Democratic minority on social spending. And in order to get a big bump up, which arguably was needed, although we could talk about the way they spend money, and we should, but big bump up in military spending, they had to get social spending in there. I don't blame President Trump for that. I really, truly don't. He really didn't have much of a choice. But I do blame, all of us in the public who don't understand what the federal government should be doing in our lives. And the spending on military, that's a federal responsibility. Spending on social programs, no. Let's get the federal government out of that stuff.
Nan, here's my question, though, and I don't disagree with anything you just said, but why can't I put some blame on Donald Trump? And everybody knows I'm a Trump fan. I voted for him before. I voted again. But that's not the only massive, absurd spending bill he's signed. And we just got word that our deficit was $860 billion in June. We used to have tea parties because Barack Obama ran that up in a single year in June. I know. How can I not put some blame on him?
Jesse, well, I will say this about President Trump, and I'm going to give him, I'm among those, and I know we share so much in terms of philosophy and our thought on politics and on President Trump. He has accomplished, in so many ways, more conservative goals and more of what he promised he would do than his predecessors did. That said, and by the way, I am a great enthusiast and friend of Larry Kudlow's. I think the president's got some great, Kevin Hassett, he's got some great sound advisors in there guiding him. But the president didn't come to this as some sort of rabid fiscal conservative. That's not his thing. He is a populist. So I think he's been willing to go places on spending that obviously have given, a lot of folks who really do want to see spending constrained, have given us fits. All that said, I have tremendous trouble blaming him for any of it because he is faced with such hostility at every level, from, directly next door to him on Capitol Hill to the, popular culture, academia, media, that it would be a little hard for him, I think, to charm his opponents on the Hill into doing something differently. But, that's been said. It's sort of like, well, maybe if he spent more time, talking up the fiscal conservative aspects, maybe. But, of course, COVID has meant a massive spasm of spending. We all know that. But here's the thing, and here's what I always go back to. when we have profligate government, in which we do, and that's the thing that troubles me the most about, what I found in politics. When we have profligate government, at least we need to have tax relief and regulatory restraints that will enable us to produce maximally in our economy to cope with all this spending. And that takes me right back to President Trump.
Nan Hayward, thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you, Jesse. Thank you.
Be good. We got to remember where we came from and what we just left with the last presidency, because there's a chance we might be going there again. Let's hope not. All right. We'll do it again sometime. See you.